I'm not sure about that. It doesn't sound like you are doing well. Are you not happy that Trump has won? Let's mind our business here in Africa. You leave Trump alone. Good morning. Right. So my name is Tennyson Williams, as Mark has mentioned. I work for World Animal Protection. And my business here today is to share our experience as an organization, following a piece of work that we have done and we continue to do. Friends, before I start, let me say thank you very much to Pelham Kenya and the organizers of this first symposium for inviting World Animal Protection to have an opportunity to share our experience. Before I do that, please permit me to lend my voice to the earlier session that we just had. The issue around participatory action research, the involvement of farmers. My challenge to that panel, which I should have done, by the way, before now, is for them to consider the role of human rights-based approach in participatory action research. What is the role of human rights-based approach in participatory action research? That is a discussion for another day. So, I work for World Animal Protection. And World Animal Protection is the global voice, we believe, for animal welfare, because we have more than 70 years experience, ladies and gentlemen, campaigning for a world where animals live free from cruelty and suffering. We owe no apologies for taking that position, ladies and gentlemen, because we believe we have a responsibility as human beings to do just that. The cruelty and suffering of animals must be a thing of the past. Our goal, therefore, is to change the way the world works, to end animal cruelty and suffering for both wild and farmed animals. One will argue that, well, that is very limiting in terms of our scope, but we are also just being realistic, that by the time you finish all the trouble that farmed animals go through, that wild animals go through, indeed, we believe you will have done a lot. So we want to be realistic, hence our focus on farmed and wild animals. In doing so, ladies and gentlemen, we have done a lot of policy advocacy related work to do this. Of course, that is underpinned by a lot of research, part of which I'm going to share in a moment when I talk about the just transition piece of work that we've done in collaboration with our partners. So in our policy advocacy endeavors, ladies and gentlemen, we have interacted with civil society, like-minded organizations. As you can see to my left, that is evidence of the work we've been doing with other CSOs. And mainly we have been organizing around what we call an African Protein Summit. And that led to a joint statement that we came up with. A joint statement that we are very proud to say found its way into the climate conversations at Sharm el-Sheikh a few years ago, that is in Egypt. So we are continuing to explore what we believe is appropriate in terms of food source and food focus for Africa through the African Protein Summit. To my right, that slide is evidence to participation with intergovernmental organizations such as the African Union, Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources. I'm sure all of you will recall that Kenya hosted the first African Climate Summit here in Nairobi, I think 2 years or so ago. And luckily, we organized a pre-summit, and our contribution to the summit itself led to some of our language being captured in the declaration that came out of the Africa Climate Summit. So those are efforts that we have done as part of our work. We do other things, but let me limit my reference to what we do to that extent. I would like now to focus on the just transition research that we've done and share our experience. So as you see on the slide, it is about a just transition from what to what? From industrial animal production to equitable, humane, and sustainable food systems. I think that is self-explanatory. But it's important to keep in mind that we are doing this because we feel it is the right thing to do. In the first place, it touches on the welfare of animals for which we exist, and therefore we owe no apology, because it's important, as far as we are concerned, that the animals we interact with on planet Earth are cared for, that their welfare is secured, and we have the responsibility to do just that. But connected to that is the opportunity that good animal welfare offers humanity, which is about how we produce our food, the food we consume, the implications for the kind of food we consume. Whether or not we are aware, the truth is there are consequences when the food we consume are not actually good for us. In today's world, you and I know a lot of diseases that you and I go through. Some of them are lifestyle-related diseases, and some of them also have something to do with the food we eat. So we have published this Just Transition paper, which we have developed in partnership with some of our friends who also believe that this world can be a better place if we review, if we take a step back and look at how we produce our food, specifically away from industrial agriculture. Please don't get me wrong. We are not suggesting for once that the problems of Africa from a food perspective can be solved exclusively without technology. That is not what we are suggesting. Because I remember at one point when we started this conversation, someone was saying, are you suggesting, Mr. Williams, that we should go back 100 years and adopt those agricultural practices which we used to do? And I'm saying to him, no, that is certainly not what we are saying. Our smallholder farmers will argue, in fact, need to have the latest technology so that they can be more productive. Because as we speak, they contribute 70% of the food you and I consume in Africa. We have no choice. I think that we have to look our leadership in the face and say, look, we got to revisit our model of agriculture. And that model cannot be industrial. It doesn't have to be industrial anyway to feed Africa. I am conscious the African population is on the upward trajectory. It is projected to be 2 billion by 2050. And one will ask, where are we going to feed all those people? Are our smallholder farmers going to be able to feed Africa? The answer is emphatically yes. What we need to do is to believe in our smallholder farmers, is to support our smallholder farmers, is to reduce food imports and use the resources we put into food imports into food production at the local level. I think that would be a game changer. And that is what we are calling for. That is what we are calling for. So the white paper was created by a coalition of organizations that are dedicated to ensuring a just transition away from industrial animal agriculture system. We laid out 3 clear objectives when we were doing this piece of work, ladies and gentlemen. 3 clear objectives. Number 1, we needed to understand the impact of industrial animal agriculture and mitigation and adaptation opportunities. It is very important that we understood that or understand that. The second thing is very important. Examine the current impact of industrial animal agriculture. What is the current impact? Which forms the basis for our argument? I just want to look at it from 7 dimensions, but want to focus on probably one of those dimensions. There is a livelihoods dimension in terms of the impact of industrial agriculture. There is a human and labor rights dimension. There is also a food sovereignty and food security dimension. There is a public health dimension. Whether you like it or not, I don't want to scare you. I am not a prophet of doom. But I want to challenge you that the next pandemic will be AMR. Antimicrobial resistance will be the next pandemic. When all antibiotics will not work for humanity, we will be in serious trouble. So AMR will be an issue. So public health certainly cannot be overlooked in this situation. Biodiversity is another dimension. Of course, climate. And last but not least, animal welfare. Let's look at livelihoods for a moment. For instance, traditional forms of animal husbandry in the global south, such as pastoralist or agro-pastoral systems, provide an important source of nutrients, provide family income, community cohesion, provide transport, fuel, and fertilizer inputs for crop production on mixed farms. I don't think that is contestable. That is not contestable. We all know that this type of agricultural systems do offer all of this in our communities. As a result of that, the sector plays a major role in reducing poverty. It plays a major role in improving resilience and in combating food insecurity and malnutrition. In fact, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization report estimates that livestock contributes to the livelihoods of about 1.7 billion poor people. And 70% of those employed in the sector are women. 70% are women. There is a lot to gain if we go back and look at that. So livelihoods and industrial agriculture, you can see how if we go the industrial agriculture route, what we are likely to lose. We may say, well, that's the shortcut to solve our food sovereignty problems, but we are losing a lot in terms of livelihoods. And that's the challenge. So in your quiet moment, in your spare time, please try and find the connections between industrial animal agriculture and the other angles that we have listed there, 7 of them. Let me move quickly to what we consider to be the levers of change. The levers of change. This has come out of the piece of work that we did with our partners, and therefore you will find in the white paper. The first lever of change, ladies and gentlemen, is that shift towards diets within planetary and social boundaries. Shift towards diets within planetary and social boundaries. Countries in the global north, that is what we are saying, with high per capita consumption of animal-based products, they must transition to plant-rich diets. We are not at the same level. We are conscious of that. The amount of protein intake in the global north is not the same amount of protein intake in the global south. But we are saying in this call, the global north must make a conscious step to reduce the amount of protein intake, because that has a direct correlation with the impact on the life of animals. So they must move towards plant-rich diets, which reduce meat and dairy to stay within planetary and social boundaries. This shift, ladies and gentlemen, will benefit public health, and it will free up land and resources to support diversified agroecological production systems. That is a fact. The second lever of change, ladies and gentlemen, is strengthening food system governance. The current food system governance is unfortunately not in favor of our kind of society that we yearn for. We need to challenge the dominance of the food systems by multilateral corporations. Currently, multilateral corporations are calling the shots. And that kind of arrangement is not in our favor. We must challenge that model. The dominance of such players, we must call them out. We must put policies in place to foster transparency and hold them accountable for their social and environmental impacts. There's a lot of damage that goes on when these multilateral corporations produce our food and we rely on them 100%. Last but not least, as a lever, we must promote agroecological practices. And I love this. I'm sure all of you are in this conference because you believe in this. We must promote agroecological practices. And I'm happy Pelham says it is about participatory agroecology. But I argue that we need to go beyond participatory. And hence my earlier question, what is the role of human rights-based approach in participatory action research. The reason being, participatory agroecology may only help us in terms of addressing the condition. It will not address the position. We need to address both the condition and the position. And in addressing the position, we must evoke the relevant clauses in our constitutions, because it is not a favor that we are doing for farmers. It is a right that they have to enjoy as farmers. And until and unless we actually have that balance between addressing condition and position, we'll be in trouble. So we must address both the condition and the positions of our intervention so that our farmers are in a better place. So that's our argument. We must lend a voice to that. But friends, we are conscious also that much as we have levers, which I have outlined, we also have blockers. We also have blockers which we must be conscious of. Governance can be a blocker to this initiative. And if governance can be a blocker, therefore, we must demand corporate accountability and transparency. And we must ensure that corporations and private actors are required to make disclosures. They must be open. They must open their books. How are they intervening? When they move into our kind of continent, multilateral corporations, they must be very transparent. The negotiations they enter into our governments with, they must open it up so that we know there should be nothing hidden. Otherwise, governance can be a blocker. The second potential blocker is finance and financial arrangements. Our smallholder farmers, you and I know that, they don't have the same opportunity to access finance. They can't access finance. What is it that the big corporations have that they enjoy this benefit that our small farmers do not enjoy? So finance and financial instruments can be a blocker. Last but not least is dietary preferences. Dietary preferences can be a blocker. Who says our traditional food is not good enough? We should promote our traditional foods. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask all of you, I want to humbly ask all of you to join us in this 4 call to action. 4 call to action. Number 1, we have an opportunity with our nationally determined contributions in the climate space. We must develop strong NDC targets that address the urgent need to transform food systems, aligning the latest climate science to limit global warming and to recognize equitable, humane, and sustainable systems as the solution to achieving food justice. We are asking you to join us in this call to action. It is urgent. It should have been like yesterday. Number 2, traditional food systems. We need to take collective action. We need to recognize the critical role that African traditional food systems, mainly delivered by smallholders, can play in sustainable and climate-smart agriculture. Number 3, we need to look at harmful practices together, and we must resist the adoption of practices that are climate unfriendly. We must resist them. Last but not least, climate finance. The climate conference in Baku is going to be looking at climate finance. And I think that climate financing is not in our favor even as we speak. The climate financiers should redirect much more needed finances to boost the indigenous small-scale farmers that play a critical role in providing affordable food and livelihood to the local communities. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, as we kick off this groundbreaking first National Agroecological Symposium, let us remember that together we are redefining Africa's agricultural landscape. Not through exploitation, but through a harmonious, balanced people, animals, and nature arrangements. Let this symposium, ladies and gentlemen, be the spark that drives lasting change, setting a new standard for agricultural practices across the continent of Africa. I thank you for listening. God bless.
Asante sana to Bwana Tennyson Williams for keeping time in that clarion call there. He is the Director for World Animal Protection in charge of Africa. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on to the next conversation. I'd like to call on the moderator for this next panel, Ann Maina, the National Coordinator, Biba Kenya, and she will be joined for this discussion, and this one will be Mainstreaming Agroecology in the Counties, a case study of Nakuru and Kiambu counties by Route to Food Initiative. She will be joined with or by Stephen Mudhui, farmer from Nakuru County. If you hear your name, please join us on stage here. She'll also be joined by Grace Mbui, farmer from Kiambu County, and Sylvia Kuria, farmer, founder, Sylvia's Basket. Karibu. Join us on stage, tafadhali. I think that is Bwana Stephen anakuja. Sylvia is on her way, and Grace, yes, there they are. Please give them a hand as they come to stage. And Anne tells me she will be taking 30 minutes, so it's 12:40. That's when they will be done with their panel discussion. So let's court them the attention, and here's a mic that you can use.
Thank you very much. I think it's still it's afternoon. Good afternoon. So we have the farmers that are practicing agroecology with us here. I'm going to introduce them briefly, beginning with the gentleman closest to me. We have Stephen Mudhui. He's a nutritionist and an agroecology farmer based in Nakuru and runs a brand known as Decapoli Organic Foods and has keen interest in farmer managed seed systems and participatory guarantee systems. On the far end, we have Sylvia Kuria. Wave at the people. Sylvia Kuria is an organic farmer and a community empowerment facilitator. She has been an advocate and is a dedicated smallholder farmer, organic farmer and entrepreneur from Kenya, passionate about making organic foods accessible. With over 15 years experience and having started with half an acre, she now runs a farm and gradually has expanded to 4 acres, where she has cultivated both crops and deep connections to her land. She's also an entrepreneur. In 2016, she launched Sylvia's Basket, focusing on home delivery of fresh organic produce. And from 2019 to 2023, she has operated a retail shop, and in early 2024 has transitioned to her business to establish an aggregation hub, working with over 50 farmers across Kenya to create and support marketplace while supplying more products to bulk buyers. We also have Madam Grace. Grace, can we see you? So Grace Mbaru is an agroecology farmer from Deya, Kiambu County, and a co-founder and program director for the Villagers Hope Foundation, focusing on sustainable farming and community empowerment. So thank you very much, my panelists. My first question will be to understand, as farmers and as a practitioner, what do you understand agroecology to be? We start with you, Stephen.
Thank you, Anne. Good afternoon, friends and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. This is Stephen coming from Nakuru, a proud farmer and also representing the youth. So I've done this for the last 4.5 years, and I'm excited to be here. So agroecology to me is it's life. It's life to humans, it's life to animals, and life to environment. Yes.
Thank you very much. Grace, you should have a mic there to share. What is your understanding of agroecology as a farmer practicing in Deya? What are some of the things that you have done as you transition to agroecology?
Oh, thank you very much, Anne. My name is Grace from Deya, Kiambu County. And my understanding on agroecology is farming that integrates nature. As we farm, we also take care of our environment. And currently, what we are trying to do is transition from conventional farming to organic farming.
Thank you very much, Grace. We have our practitioner and also marketing products of agroecology. Yeah. Maybe Sylvia, you can tell us your understanding and how you have been implementing these agroecological practices.
Yeah, sure. So basically, for me, like agroecology is the only option we have now, farming with regards to nature. We've been farming now for about 15 years. Like for me, I was lucky because I just went into organic farming because I started growing food for my family and transitioned into a business. And I remember for a very long time, I didn't understand the term agroecology. I think for many of us, we started hearing about it around 2016. I think 2015 when we had a big, conference for agroecology. And as an organic farmer, I didn't know what that was. And now when we came to learn about the principles and the practices of agroecology, we realized we're actually practicing it. We had no idea. But we actually realized we have actually been practicing agroecology as organic farmers. And it's the only option we have right now because our food systems are quite broken. And the only way for us to ensure that we have, food and we're able to sustain, our food systems is agroecology.
Thank you. To continue with you, Sylvia,
Yeah.
what are some of the practices? I know you do crops and you are now venturing into agropastoralism.
Yeah.
What are some of the practices have you been practicing in terms of transitioning into agroecology?
For us, we basically follow through with the principles of agroecology and elements. We have the 10 elements of agroecology and the principles. And, there are quite a number of them that we really do follow. And the thing that I think the ones that resonate so closely for me is as a farmer, I want to be able to have synergies. So want to be able to make sure that we're able to work with nature, to make sure that you have a closed loop and reducing the inputs coming into the farm and being able to also have things like diversity. So we also have quite diverse crops that we grow on our farm. And diversity is not only on farm, but also on the plate. We're also trying to ask people, we're talking about our local and indigenous foods, and also how are we able to, integrate scientific knowledge. We've been talking about that before, and the local knowledge. How do we be able to bring them together? And something else that's also very close to our hearts is being able to have short food chains. That's one of the elements of agroecology. How far is food traveling from the farm to your plate? And for us as entrepreneurs, we're really trying to make sure that we are able to work with local farmers and also try to encourage consumers. Think about where you're eating. Be mindful, make decisions with your fork, and say that I'm going to eat local organic food grown by smallholder farmers in my community. So those are some of the practices of agroecology that we take into place. Yeah.
Thank you. To you, Grace. Coming from Deya, which is one of the driest areas of Kiambu County, what are some of the practices that are you doing as you're practicing agroecology? What are some of the things that you do on the farm as you practice agroecology?
So as you understand, Deya is a very dry area. And so some of the things that we are trying to do is we are trying to engage the county government in terms of the input that they provide to the farmers. We are requesting the county government to not only provide us with seeds, but those that are very adaptable to our climatic condition, the indigenous ones, such as sweet potatoes, millet, cassava, and so on and so forth. We also engage in the county government to help farmers in constructing water pans and equip the water pans with dam liners to ensure that the water is conserved. So that because in the year we experience a lot of unpredictable rainfalls. So when we have the rain, we can be able to collect water and preserve water and use that water when it's dry.
Are you doing any beekeeping in there?
No.
Okay, what animals are you keeping there?
Personally, I'm doing
Chickens.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. To you, Mudhui, I'd like to understand some of the practices you're doing. What are you growing in Nakuru? How are you growing them to ensure that you transition to agroecology?
So one of the things that we are engaged so much is the issues of seed banking. We save our own indigenous seeds. That has been very successful in terms of practicing agroecology, because you understand the issues that is going on with the seeds. the issue of accessing quality and good seeds, which you can always rely, has been a challenge in our country. So that's something we are doing. We have managed to do that. We manage our soil fertility by making our own fertilizers, biofertilizers. So that of course reduces the issues of going back to buy the inputs. We are also making our own biopesticides. See, agroecology is not as complex as people think. It's very simple, it's very practical. And so just acknowledging the knowledge and practicing it has led us to successful practices. Thank you.
Thank you. I know all of us have been engaged with government looking at, for example, policies. What are some of the policies you are advocating for? I know like Kiambu has been in the process of developing an agroecology policy. I think Nakuru has just started. Maybe we can start with you, Sylvia. What are some of the things, if you look at, for example, at the CIDPs, how have you influenced government policy or funding towards agroecology?
Okay, so it's been very exciting for us, and we are really grateful to the Root to Food initiative under the Heinrich Böll Foundation, who responded to our request, for them to work with us to actually work with farmers, to take part in the policy space at the county level. So we started the journey in 2021, whereby we trained farmers just on basic principles of agroecology. And 2022 being an election year, we then came together and decided and said, why can't we as farmers, come through and take part in public participation to ensure that, in the county integrated development plans, we are able to put in agroecology. We took part in public participation as the farmers. We mobilized farmers. I think that time when we had the sessions, we had more than 100 farmers, and we came together. We decided as farmers, what is it we want to be able to mainstream agroecology within the county, and we're very successful. We're very successful because we actually managed to get 5 initiatives or 5 activities to be integrated into our county integrated development plans, and the 5 initiatives were actually based and founded on agroecology. And right now, as I speak, in Kiambu County, if you go through the county plans, you'll actually find our 5 activities within our ward in Deya, which are actually being implemented. One of the ones that is very close to my heart, and also like with the people we work with in Deya, in Kiambu County, is territorial markets. So the county has actually funded a territorial market, whereby now farmers are actually able to sell their produce within the village without having to travel very far. And also we actually, the market is being, they're starting to do the construction, and we're actually going to be having organic farmers and farmers practicing agroecology having access to markets within the community. So we started off in Kiambu very successfully, and now still working with the Root to Food initiative. We are still working with farmers to push policy at the county levels in Nakuru and in Kajiado.
You talked of territorial markets. I think many people here might not understand what is a territorial market. What do you mean when you say territorial markets?
Okay, basically territorial markets could be, from the small local market even to regional, but basically the one that we're referring to in this particular conversation is just having a local market, like within, an area, like a ward. Like now in this particular scenario, we are talking about Ndeya, which is a ward within a county. So we actually are building, the county is building a local market for farmers to actually be able to trade in the community, which is quite exciting because, we want to be able to have, access to our own communities and making sure that we're able to grow good organic food and make it accessible to the people around us. Because what normally happens is that farmers, and you can be able to attest with me, that farmers would normally grow food to actually be sent out to very far away markets like in Nairobi or wherever. But now for us, we are saying, no. We don't have to send out all our food out there. It can go there. But what about the local communities? Why can't they be able to enjoy the local organic food that is produced within their spaces? Yeah.
Thank you. Grace, how easy has it been for you to access markets when you grow your crops and your animals. How easy has it been?
It's not been easy, because for us in Deya, the market that is closest to us is Wagigi or the Kimede one. But now we are happy that through our advocacy effort and attending public participation to voice out some of these things, we can now attest that the government is building a market in Deya.
Okay, thank you. And in Nakuru, how easily can you access markets to sell your produce? Let's use this.
So maybe it's good to mention that my inspiration to start organic farming was, as a nutritionist, I wanted to grow my own food and also for my family. And after doing that, many people started requesting if I could just extend the same to them. So it was a market-driven demand that made us go now to the actual entrepreneurial part of the organic farming. And Nakuru enjoys a very good cosmopolitan environment. So people are aware about what they are consuming, the kind of traceabilities of food. So the market is there. Actually, we have a very good problem that the demand is quite higher than the supply of the organic foods.
Do you have specific organic markets, or what you call earth markets in other terms?
Yes, I was privileged to be coordinating one market in Nakuru that was started by Slow Food Kenya, an NGO. I know they are represented here. We are still going on. There is one that is running in Gilgil. Gilgil is one of the sub-counties in Nakuru. In the village of Makongo, a small ward within the Nakuru County, you'll be very surprised there is an ongoing organic market every day. Every day, the farmers are taking produces to the market. And also there is that aspect of people know who is growing good food, so they're always even coming to the farms to get the produces. Yes.
There's a whole issue of certification when you want to access organic markets at a certain level. We know of PGS and others. What have you been doing to ensure that, for example, Sylvia, you grow and sell now, I think, all over the country and aggregate? How do you ensure quality, and what kind of certification are you getting?
Okay. So, we basically work with partners. We are not able to do it on our own. And of course, our main partner is KOAN, which is the Kenya Organic Agriculture Network, who have been the custodians of, group certification for farmers. For those of us who don't know what that is, it's known as participatory guarantee systems, whereby smallholder farmers are able to access certification services. And, and Steve also is one of the certifiers. So now, KOAN has been able to, devolve, let me put it that way, devolve PGS so that you actually have farmers who are able to certify. So we normally, ensure that our food comes from smallholder farmers who are in organized groups and have been certified and have gone through the full training of organic farming and are now looking for markets. So majority of the farmers that I work with are actually coming from organized groups.
Grace, do you belong to any PGS group? How are you getting certified?
We are set in one in Deya, but for now, we are our farmers group who have gone through the training of agroecology. In a village setup, things travel very fast. You know who's doing what and what where. So we know the farmers who are practicing organic farming, and mostly we access the farm produce from them.
So demand for your products is high?
It's very high.
From outside or from within?
I think both.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Now to Stephen, what are some of the challenges you have faced as a practicing agroecology farmer, or when you started off as an organic farmer? What kind of challenges have you faced?
That's a very good question, Anne. Now, an average farmer in our country is about 60 years. That's a fact. So we are trying to, break that analogy that farming should be just, just to grow food. And we are here to attest that I left my work. I was employed somewhere and went full-time in farming. So I'm very proud of that. And one of the challenges I had initially when I started organic farming was the knowledge. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't understand what was, what it was all entailing, the agroecological. But I was very happy to have met the BVAT. BVAT was very helpful. That was, they held my hands and were able to teach me on the ground what we needed to do. So the next big issues were the issues of the seeds. There is a great issues with the seeds that is ongoing in our country. It's not very easy for you as an organic farmer. The conventional seeds does not really promote agroecological mostly. So they are prone to diseases. You have to use the chemicals to grow most of the seeds that are available in the market. So that was a great challenge for me. But luckily we've been able to mitigate that issues by having our own seed banks. And of course, as a youth, there's the aspect of not having enough finances. I had to go and start off with my father's farm. Before now, I could acquire mine now. I have my own land. Thank you.
Thank you, Modoi. Sylvia, let me throw this at you. There is the issue of the increasing use of toxic pesticides, and you find even with those that are allowed, farmers are misusing them because of lack of knowledge. How have you been able to mitigate that with the communities and the farmer groups that you work with?
Okay, so of course, like during the training of farmers, where we train them on how to transition to organic, agroecology, and more sustainable farming practices, one of the things that also always comes through is the use of synthetic inputs. Generally, farmers actually struggle to transition to organic and agroecology mainly because of the inputs. Because there's been this narrative that you cannot be able to grow food like using organic or sustainable methods, because they think that it's not possible to do that. But for us, through the work that we've been doing with the farmers over the years, we've been able to collect data and actually realize that there's actually proven concept that we can actually grow food safely. And we're really excited. We even have some farmers who are growing organic on 60, 100 acres. And also just the example from our farm, for us, we are growing on about 15 acres of organic produce. And when farmers are able to come through, visit, and see what we're doing, they're actually very encouraged, to see that it's actually possible. So one of the ways we're doing it is, one is, seeing is believing, exposing farmers to farms whereby, we are able to grow food safely for markets, not just for subsistence, because most times organic has been seen as mainly subsistence, small scale farmers, just doing your small kitchen garden, but being able to showcase that we are able to grow organic produce even for the market in large quantities. And also the second thing we're actually trying to do is we're doing a lot of documentation, and also still now with the Root to Food initiative, we're actually documenting, and we are developing manuals and developing publications whereby farmers can be able to access information about the highly hazardous pesticides, because farmers generally normally don't get this information. But with Root to Food initiative, we are now documenting and trying to show the farmers these actually alternatives, because when farmers get to know what is a highly hazardous pesticide, like what are the active ingredients, how do I avoid using these on my crops? And then now when you tell them, now this one, stop it. Now we are now documenting alternatives so that farmers can actually be able to have documented information that they can be able to refer to and ensure that we're able to grow safe food. Because, just real quick, for us to actually change the narrative of highly hazardous pesticides, I strongly believe we have to work with the farmers. We can have these conferences, we can talk about it out here, but unless the farmers are the ones who make the change, it's very difficult for us to actually have access to safe food in our markets.
Thank you. To Grace, as a young farmer, I believe you are a youth farmer. What are some of the challenges you faced as a farmer as you transition and to agroecology and practice all these practices? What are some of the challenges you have faced over the years?
One is the issue of seeds. It's very hard to get compatible seed and quality indigenous seeds that are adaptable to the Deya climate. So you get to a point where you get to a point where you are pushed now to turn back and now continue with maybe using synthetic fertilizer and such. The other thing is the climatic conditions of Deya. Deya, it's a very dry area, and we experience very unpredictable rainfall. So you find out that even the government, the seed that they give us are not able to do well.
Okay, thank you very much. Stephen, I'm just wondering, we are at the national level, we are almost launching a national agroecology strategy this November. Have you been involved in the development of any of the agroecology policies or strategies? And what would be your recommendations?
I am a volunteer at ISFA. That is, ISFA is the Intersectoral Forum of Agroecology and Biodiversity for the last 3 years. I'm very proud to have been a member of the TWG, the private sector and markets. And I believe our experiences and the deliberation we've had there is part of the contribution to the development of the strategy. I'm also involved in Nakuru. Nakuru, we are still at the beginning stage of developing a policy for agroecology. So we are proudly reporting here that we are part of the steering committee as farmers. So that means that the issues of farmer will be on the table. We are not on the menu, but we're actually in the kitchen making the actual food, So that's quite interesting for us, and we are happy of this far that we've come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Grace, have you been involved in the policy development in Kiambu or other parts of the country? And what recommendations would you make?
At the national level, no. But I'm aware that for the Kiambu County, the policy has already been formulated. We are receiving a sensitization workshop to be enlightened on the content, and we are hopeful that maybe soon it will be implemented by the government of Kiambu.
Thank you. Sylvia, you have been involved at all levels, even at the Pan-African level through the Alliance of Food Sovereignty in Africa.
Yeah.
What has been your experience and some recommendations that you can make?
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Anne. So for us, most times when we talk about policy, we hardly ever think that farmers can be on the table. And that has been something we've been really fighting, that who is sitting at the table, who is making the decision for the farmers. And, it's been very exciting for us, especially when we started the initiative with the farmers in Kiambu at the very bottom level, whereby we said we are able to push the policy. You can imagine how excited we were to actually find that, everything that we had recommended through the county level, was integrated into the county plans and has been budgeted, and then for us just to be able to take part at the public participation level, we find that farmers, if you're a farmer here within my earshot, kindly, whenever your county calls for public participation, ensure that you attend. I cannot be able to reiterate the gains that we've had with that. We just started working in Kajiado this year for only 6 months, and after 6 months of working with farmers there, they've actually gotten a market again that is going to be budgeted within the county government of Kajiado just because of public participation. And when I talk to the technocrats and the policy makers, we have to really think about it. How many farmers normally sit at the table at Kilimo House? How many farmers sit at the table making the decisions, being able to keep their leaders accountable? Many times farmers only just constitute maybe 5 to 10% of the people making the decisions. But for us, we are really pushing it out there. We're very happy to have this session to actually be able to showcase and show that there's great success when farmers sit at the table and make the decisions. So for us, one, farmers take part in every public participation forum that you have available, and two, those who are sitting at the levels where they are making the decision, always make sure that farmers compose of a large percentage of the people making the decision for their policies. Thank you.
Thank you. And your final words as we conclude the session?
Okay, my final words is basically just to say that, farmers have actually come up to make decisions at the policy level, and we are very grateful to, of course, the Route to Food Initiative, who have really worked with us, believed in us even when we didn't know, we can do much. And I can actually proudly say that in Kiambu, Nakuru, and Kajiado, agroecology farmers are the ones who are pushing the agenda in agriculture, and we are pushing the agenda for agroecology, which is very nice.
Thank you. Grace, some final words?
My final word is to say that agroecology is doable. It should be the way, and also to encourage people to take part in public participation forums. For Kiambu, it has really worked. Most of the things that the things that we voiced out have been taken into perspective. So it's very important to take part in these public participations, and also to work closely with the governance at the local level, our MCA, because at the end of the day, these are the people who will be at the assembly often to voice our concern. For me, I cannot go there every day, so it's very good to work together with them, and also other county officials and other county avenues like the agricultural extension services. They are very much impactful when it comes to agroecology.
Thank you. Mudui?
Yeah. Number one is let's all consume organic foods. Not very sure, but I'm tempted to ask how many of you consume organic foods. But let's all consume organic foods. Let's just go beyond now consumption of organic. Let it be a lifestyle. That's a gospel that I keep preaching every day. And one final thing is that advocacy is work, but it's a work that works actually. Sylvia, just a second, she reminded one time that there was a public participation in our area in Gilgil. We were the only citizen presenting in public participation. There was nobody who was there. And so as much as that we blame the government in making decisions for us, let's also be there, outside there, voice our issues and needs, and be able to articulate them as needed. So thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much. Please let us give a clap to my panel. We will not have a round of questions because the moderator is on my case, but we thank you for having listened to us. And let's stand and have a group photo as we move to our tables.
Asante sana. Let's give another round of applause to Anne Miner, who has been the moderator with Stephen, Grace, and Sylvia with the conversation there. She has actually been within her time as they take a photo there. I'd also now like to call on Mary Irungu, who will be joining us as a moderator for the next session. She's a policy and advocacy coordinator, Pelham, Kenya. You could just come and stand by here with me, tafadhali. Actually, you could just take the seat there because that will be your position with the four panelists, beg your pardon, that you will be with. But as you also join us, asanteni sana to this panel that has just been with us. As we also call on the next panelist, I'd like to acknowledge the joining in presence of Leonard Kubok, the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, representative for the Principal Secretary for State Department for Agriculture. He will be addressing us later on after this panel, alongside Engineer Laban, who will be inviting him for the official opening ceremony for this symposium. So you can have your seat, and I'll call on your other panelists just as they come. If you hear your name, tafadhali njo. Let's get on with the conversation because we also have limited time. And this discussion is on leadership, roundtable discussion on agroecology policies. Now, this one will be handled by James Nyaga, Agroecology Lead Officer, Climate Resilience Officer, Murang'a County. If you're here with us, tafadhali join us here on stage. All right, James Nyaga. David Ombalo, Assistant Director, Agricultural Policy, State Department for Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, join us as well. And Dr. Hamisi Zila, Assistant Director, Livestock Policy, Research and Regulation, State Department for Livestock, Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. Please give them a hand as they come to the stage. And the fourth, of this panel, Dr. Anthony Masharia, Head of Agroforestry Department, State Department for Forestry. Karibu sana, Dr. Anthony Masharia, wherever you are, joining us from Dr. Yes, I believe that's him. And now, over to you, Mary, and that is your mic.
Thank you very much, Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this session on leadership roundtable discussion on agroecology policies.
And Mary, just as you continue, I have an announcement for those who are at the exhibition area. Please make sure that every tent has one representative manning it, because the evaluation team is going round at the moment just to assess what you have for display. So make sure each tent has at least one representative there at your tent at the exhibition area. Sorry.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this roundtable discussion on agroecology policies. You'll all agree with me that enabling policy environment is very key in the transition to agroecology. And we really need the policies for environmental sustainability, food security, economic viability, social equity, cultural and traditional knowledge, as well as our health benefit. And so, welcome on board, gentlemen. It was not a design to have men only, but trust me, you have a strong lady who will moderate this session. A clap for us. So with me is Mr. Nyaga. Mr. Nyaga has been very pivotal in the development of Murang'a County Agroecology Policy and Act. And since they are the first county to come up with an agroecology policy and act, even before the national government, let's give them a loud of applause. Mr. Nyaga, you have already started the implementation of the policy as well as the act. What are these key achievements that you have realized at the grassroots level, especially to the common mwananchi?
Okay, thank you, Mary. What we did after we enacted our policy and an act, the first thing we did is we brought together what we call our most stakeholder platform, and we have mobilized around that 8 members. And we say in Murang'a, when you're doing what we call transition to agroecology, we say it's period, that is private sector land, but government regulated. Then immediately after that, we did what you call training. Remember, most of our staffs, they have been trained in conventional agriculture, and they did what you call training to 35 extension. We call them extension agents. Then after that, we have formed what you call the champion groups, and we are using what you call the FFS, Farmer Field School models, where in each sub-county we have what you call one model farm. Then, remember, if you look at the topography in Murang'a, it's a very hilly one. So we are doing massive promotion of what you call solid water conservation structures. And currently, issues to do with the marketing, we are using a model called OWOC, that is one commodity approach through the use of agripreneurs. Then, together with Murang'a University of Science and Murang'a University of Technology, Professor Mwang is in here today with us, we realized there's a gap. There's a gap in extension. And what we did, we developed what we call a short course called Applied Agroecology, which is going to be targeting the extension workers and also the staffs. And it has allowed 5 modules. Also, if you go to the farm, we have issues to do with what you call agro inputs. Most of them are conventional. And together with OAC, that is Organic Agriculture Center of Kenya, already you are packaging what you call bio inputs. And if you go to the exhibition, you're going to see some of those agro inputs there. Also, remember, Murang'a is one of the counties, I think county number 3, leading what you call NCDs, non-communicable diseases. And as one of the innovations, we have come out with what we call farm pharmacies. Farm pharmacies, there we say, in Kenya we always take medicine as food, but we are telling people you should be taking food and medicine. And the food pharmacy concept is where you can just walk in that shop and you get trained. You know, you never know how to cook these days. You get trained on how to prepare those food, the conservation, the value addition, and the rest. Also, together with Nairobi University and what we call Africa Research University Alliance, they will be bringing students, masters and PhD students, to do research in those food pharmacies of ours. We want to do what we call the characterization. If you see a Maasai walking that big kibuyu, of maybe telling you it can treat around 40 diseases, we need to do the characterization. And so, how much should you be consuming? Also, we are doing a lot of advocacy and collaboration. Last week, I'm supporting West Pokot to develop their policy, and we had a 3-day training supported by BIBA through Madam Anne. Also, we are doing a lot of influencing. So, last July, we met a Central Region Economic Bloc, that is the former Central Kenya, plus Laikipia and Nakuru, that is that 10 counties, and we want to have what we call a regional policy on agroecology. Then finally, at the GODA, that is Global Data on Agriculture and Nutrition, we are developing what we call an application, a marketing application. I'll be presenting tomorrow on that. It's called iFood ICOS, and you can do trading using that application. Maybe if you're small scale farmers, you have aggregated, you can go to that application. You say maybe you have 5 kilos of organic spinach, another farmer has another 5 kilos, and somebody in Nairobi can come and click. And also, we also have an MOU with Nairobi. We are developing an MOU with the Nairobi State County Government, where we open branded kiosk where we'll be selling our product. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nyaga, and I'll get direct to Bwana Ombalo. You are our recent convertee, and we highly appreciate having you on board. You have been very key in the formulation of the National Agroecology Strategy for food system transformation in Kenya, that is for 2024 to 2034. How do you envision the implementation of this strategy in Kenya? Because as Kenyan, you will agree, we have so many policies and strategies that are still in the shelf. But we want to see a change with this one. How do you envision this implementation?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mary, for the question and, of course, the convening. Maybe allow me to just mention that first, within or during the development of the draft strategy, which we are yet but are planning to launch in the month of November, we have actually, it has been very involving and participatory. There's a lot of inclusivity across sectors, because agroecology is not confined to agriculture alone. We have Ministry of Agriculture, Environment, Health, Education and Research involved in the development. Then we have from the public sector, from the non-state actors, we've had a whole range of partners involved, including CSOs, NGOs, development partners, and actual practitioners in the field of agroecology. And we intend, and we have, because of those discussions, which have been very elaborate, we have embedded within the implementation structures, which are in Chapter 4 of the National Agroecology Strategy for Food System Transformation, an implementation and coordination framework, which again involves and has onboarded these partners, multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder participation in the process of implementation. So if you look at that chapter on how the strategy is going to be implemented, we have actually established institutions. We have a national agroecology summit, which is going to constitute of sector PSS across those sectors that I've mentioned. Then we have a national Implementation Committee, which brings on board several actors, both at national and county levels, state and non-state actors. Then in recognition of the structures that have already been established for coordinating agricultural implementation at the county level and national level, we have an intergovernmental structure called JASCOM and CASCOM, for those Kenyans who may know, the Joint Agriculture Sector Coordinating Committee and the County Agriculture Sector Coordinating Committees. They have actually been embedded within those structures to ensure that the normal business of agriculture programs and project implementation at both national and county level mainstream the issues of agroecology. And within these structures also, we have, for example, onboarded CSOs and CBOs under the ISFA framework to ensure that they are also going to be part of the decision making in the implementation, in the planning, in the coordination, in partnerships and collaboration, and even assessing progress of implementation through an M&E framework that we have embedded in the strategy. To also ensure, lastly, that we consolidate gains as we go along. That chapter also provides for knowledge management and communication, so that we can be able to learn from the success stories, which can then be upscaled across the nation, and counties and other entities and practitioners can always be able to learn from and improve as we implement agroecology.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ombalo. I'll turn to Dr. Macharia. Today we are very glad to have the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry in the House, and the Directorate of Agroforestry. And Dr. Macharia, you are spearheading the formulation of National Agroforestry Strategy. How is agroecology incorporated in this strategy, and which aspects are there? Mike.
Thank you so much, Mary, and the entire organizers for inviting the ministry, and specifically the State Department for Forestry, to this very important forum. Indeed, we are developing the National Agroforestry Strategy 2023-2032. This is a process that has been ongoing for quite a number of years. To be specific, the process started in around 2019 to 2020 under the State Department for Agriculture and Livestock Development. Then with the COVID, the process halted for some time. Then in 2022, with the new coming in of the new government, the agroforestry mandate was assigned to the State Department for Forestry, and we picked it up as the first strategy to operationalize this function in the country. And it's a multi-stakeholder led process, since agroforestry spans across various sectors and ministries, and also various actors. In December of 2023, we formed a technical working group. It's good that Pelham is one of the members sitting in the technical working group. We have the State Department for Agriculture, Irrigation, Livestock, and non-state actors in the TWG. So the thinking of this strategy, we are promoting agroforestry development for sustainability, livelihood and income improvement. What we've observed over time as we implement agriculture and forestry functions is that land is a scarce resource, water is a scarce resource, and there's sort of a push and pull between the productive use as well as the, the conservation use of our natural resources. Farmers, they are rational people. They will want to allocate their resources where they are getting maximum returns. But also at the same time, we cannot continue unsustainably using our resources, especially the land resources, water resources. In the forestry sector, we have excess demand for wood fuel, firewood and charcoal. We cannot continue cutting trees on our forests, on our rangelands to get more bioenergy. Same to the food. We cannot continue expanding agriculture to the marginal areas, areas that are good for conservation, for wildlife habitats, for biodiversity. So that's the thinking of this agroforestry strategy. We are using a value chain approach based on the comparative advantage so that we have what in economics is called economies of scale. People can be able to invest and also be able to get returns from the investment. So we are looking at, we are segregating the country based on their comparative advantage. If Northeastern can produce gums and raisins sustainably for this country, let's promote that in the Northeastern region. Let's establish factories and industries there, which is a nature-based solution, nature-based solution. Now, we are also implementing the 15 billion tree growing program, which is the National Landscape and Ecosystem Restoration Strategy. Out of the 15 billion, 30% is allocated to agroforestry trees, fruit trees, fodder trees, fuel wood trees. So what we are promoting is the orientation. How do we do our agroforestry? Can we be able to orient it professionally such that a farmer who feels that maybe I don't have enough labor, I want to apply some mechanization, we are doing agroforestry, but we orient it in a professional way such that even this farmer wants to use a tractor or wants to use a drone to apply manure, they can do it. And we promote agroforestry development. So basically agroecology is embedded. Agroforestry is one of the nature-based solutions under agroecology, conservation agriculture, and many other interventions that cut across the different sectors and ministries. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. I'll go to Dr. Zila. Welcome. Most of the times we have been missing livestock department in our forums, and today we are very glad to have the livestock department represented here. So karibu sana. Now, in most of the instances, agroecology seems like we are focusing more on crops and more on the farmlands. And in Kenya, 80% of the landmass is arid and semi-arid areas where we have more of the pastoralist community, agro-pastoralist communities. Now, from the livestock perspective, what opportunities are there for the livestock sector to support in the transition to agroecological?
Thank you, Mary. My name has been said. I'm Hamisi Zila from the State Department of Livestock, Directorate of Livestock Policy. So our role in the livestock policy is basically review and formulate policy instruments. That is our role. Now, probably I would like to say something about the sector. This is a very crucial sector, the livestock sector. And we contribute about 12%. The sector contributes 12% of the GDP, Kenya GDP. And in terms of agriculture, the agriculture sector, we contribute about 42%. So this is a very crucial sector. Now, I would like to say something about how the sector is guided. It's guided by the first, we have on the hierarchy. On the top, we have the Kenya Constitution that I think most of us are aware about what it talks about in terms of every Kenyan is entitled to access food. Then we also have other policies. We have now like the executive order that also guides us on what we are supposed to do as a sector. We have the other the agricultural policy that now is actually higher, takes care of crops and livestock. Then now we zero down to our policies at the livestock sector. We have the livestock, for example, we have the livestock policy. Basically, the policy objective is about food nutrition, and nutrition security, and livelihoods, then safeguard the environment. So you see, this policy already has an aspect of agroecology. So our policies, I'm not saying they are really, we have all the aspects of the principles of agroecology, but we have those aspects embedded in our policies. Now with that background, I would like to now look at, before I talk about the opportunities, I need to also talk something about the challenges that we have. Probably this can inform now the kind of opportunities that exist in the sector. We have, for example, the issue of feed, livestock feed. The quality and the quantity, that's a major problem. The transboundary diseases, and generally the animal diseases, are major challenges that we have. Then, of course, there's also another thing on the livestock. We have the breeding practices that we need also to know that there are problems with that. Then, of course, the market access. Now, with these challenges, before I go to the opportunities, we are as a state department, we are developing something called the Kenya Livestock Master Plan. The reason we are developing this master plan, it's actually in the process. Now we're actually the stage of collecting data. And this has involved the national government and the counties, and by extension, of course, the farmers. Now this plan basically is supposed to inform, once it's ready, that we expect to be ready soon, it will inform us on the kind of investments that should be done in the livestock sector. So now this plan, as I said, it's still ongoing. So now probably now, based on that, because we do not want to just identify opportunities without evidence, it should be evidence-based. And that's why we are developing this plan. But now, just to highlight the areas that probably, there are areas that we can, there are opportunities for investment. In the feed, conservation, production. Then we have the area of animal health, where the areas of ethno-veterinary, I think they are in tandem with the ecological, the agroecology principles. Yeah, we have issues like the botanical supplements that can be used in that. Then, of course, looking at the challenges that I just said, the issues of market, that's an area that we can look at as an opportunity. And of course, the breeds, conserving the indigenous breeds, and that actually have well adapted to the environment that we exist in. So for those few remarks, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Back to Bwana Ombalo. The farmers in the house requested, some of them requested me to ask you that now we are going to have a national agroecology strategy. That is a tick. You have also elaborated how you envision to implement this strategy. That is a tick. And farmers are wondering, we have been seeing conventional farmers receiving subsidies in form of synthetic fertilizer and the like. And the farmers here have been practicing agroecological practices. And so what are the plans in place to support these agroecological farmers in terms also of incentives or subsidy, considering the benefits that comes with agroecology?
Okay. Allow me to first point out that this is a matter that was raised during public participation in the development of the strategy, and therefore it is one of the issues that has been clearly captured as an area for intervention, where government is supposed to actually be one of the lead institutions for opening up to allow that any support that the farmers are given should also onboard and include those that foster agroecological practices. One of the constraints we also discussed, and I think this is an area that is evolving and we need to improve. You know, when we are talking about, for example, use of reducing external inputs, for example, when you're talking about organic fertilizer and so on, some of these areas have not been fully developed to an extent where, and commercialized to the extent where, for example, you could have standards around certain categories of organic materials, especially for use on the farm. And because of that aspect of commercialization and the fact that these are produced on the farm, we need to be very innovative in terms of how subsidies can support that. We have also seen increasingly that when it comes to biopesticides, I think this is an area that has moved fairly well. We have materials already or products in the market that are branded, that have met the required standards. And I think these may be areas for quick gains in terms of support, because then you will be talking about a commercialized product where the costs structures can be quickly be defined, and what aspect of support, including subsidy, could go into offsetting the cost that the farmer who commercially buys this product is able to shoulder, and what aspect government would want to shoulder. But when it comes to organic material on the farm, like your manures developed on the farm, then it becomes a bit tricky. So this is an area we also need to develop. Bokash is coming up and there are standards around it, but we need to have these standards gazetted properly so that even the levels of nutrients around them are clearly defined, and the costs or prices of this, so that we know what portion can be offset. So in short, government is ready and willing, and we have defined it in the strategy. Once it is adopted by government at county and national level, then this should also inform the kind of support, that subsidy support, that should go to farmers.
Thank you very much. And gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I'll open up now to the delegates. We just need just one question from a farmer, preferably. There are so many hands.
You tricked me there with the time. I see. Let me give it to the lady. She put her hand up first. So keep it really crisp and short.
Thank you so much. My name is Mary Ojwang. I'm a PhD student at the University of Nairobi. Sorry, I'm not a farmer. First, I'd describe agroecology as a social movement as a student. And I'd like to draw attention to the Seed and Plant Varieties Act. And my question would go to David Ombalo. Looking at the work you're doing towards development and prospects in national agroecology strategy, and considering the elements of agroecology which mandates food sovereignty and sharing, and seed sharing is part of this element that we're talking about. Seed and Plant Varieties Act restricts, I don't want to beat around the bush, talking about certification of seeds, patenting. Clearly, it's restricting us from sharing our seeds. And looking at the national agroecology strategy, when I'm trying to look at what it says about sharing of seeds, it talks about local sharing of knowledge on seeds. As a practitioner and an expert in your work, also looking at the government policies, I believe you don't want to be in conflict with the government when you are making these policies, but do you think it's a bit pretentious when you are not handling the elephant by its, like dealing with the issue, which is trying to beat around the bush instead of just directly addressing the conflict within the policy structures? And what are you doing to address this? Be honest with us.
I'll give you an opportunity to be honest first, address that question, and we move to this gentleman and two more that I saw there. Go ahead, sir.
Very briefly, this is really, I was expecting this because it's a question that is hot in the air. And we are actually, there is a case around this matter. Farmers are already aware about that. The fact of the matter is that, and I want to be honest about this, is that in the past, based on many of the statutes that we are currently implementing, some of which we are reviewing, these were actually based and premised on systems that were British oriented. I would want to say that because we inherited most of our laws from our colonial masters then. And some of these statutes actually have overstayed their time. And one of these statutes is the National Seeds and Plant Varieties Act. There has been initially, and it is not only in Kenya, an overemphasis on the formal seed sector because it was believed that this would then be able to deliver on all the seed requirements in terms of adequacy, in terms of timely availability, and in terms of quality of seed. But progressively what has been observed is that despite the fact that we intended to formalize so that we address the issues of quality, the seed sector, 80% of, if you remove maize, 80% of all the seed that the farmers still use are from farmer-managed seed systems and semi-informal systems supported by research and so on. So we have a policy of 2010, the National Seed Policy, which is currently under review. And the focus, one of the areas of focus of that policy is to recognize and also have very clear strategies that could mainstream, recognize, mainstream, and allow the farmer-managed seed system and the semi-informal seed system and the formal seed system to be integrated so that we have what we call an integrated seed system that recognizes the strengths of each of these categories of seed without trying to turn the informal seed system to a formal seed system. So after review of this policy, we actually had wanted to push the amendments in the Act, but we have been guided that we need a comprehensive review of the policy to inform the Act, and we are therefore also going to review the Act. It may also be important for you to know that the Constitution of Kenya under Article 11(3)(b) actually speaks to this issue very clearly, that Parliament is supposed to enact legislation that protects the use of indigenous seed by local communities, including associated traditional knowledge. We are cognizant of that. We are working with partners, and I'm sure some of you have already participated in the initiatives that we have commenced on the review of the seed policy. In the interim, what we have done, and again we are working with most of you, I think if I asked, quite a number of you would raise their hands. We are working with civil society organizations and seed practitioners and seed banks and the Gene Bank of Kenya, the GERI, to unlock two areas that we find that we need to address very urgently. Vegetatively propagated seed material have not been actually in the domain of the formal seed sector, because the private sector companies that are dominant in the formal seed sector do not find this area attractive. So there has been very little improvement in terms of quality of the material from the farmers. So what we have done is we are developing a regulations on on vegetatively propagated seed materials, and we have recognized farmer varieties and allowed farmers to register varieties for their materials and also be able to exchange that material among themselves, including local sales. Additionally, in order to implement the provisions of the FAO Treaty, the Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, which also, under Article 9, safeguards farmers' rights to use their seed, we again have developed a draft which is going through public participation. We have already covered Western Kenya. I think within this month we are going to cover Rift Valley in terms of public participation, so that we anchor the issue of farmers' rights, and also this instrument which Kenya has signed. We are signatories to that treaty, and in line with the Article 11.3b of the Constitution, we are able to protect farmers' rights to use their own seeds. So I think there's progress in this area. We don't want to rush it because we want to do extensive public participation, and we'll be meeting some of you whom we have met. We have not met yet, and I am sure those we have met here will still have an opportunity to validate some of these instruments before they are gazetted into law. Thank you very much.
Asante for that, and thank you for that question. Yes, round of applause. One question, farmer? Okay. From a farmer, and then we could wrap it up, tafadhali, just in the interest of time. Sorry? Sija kuona. Nimekuona. Sawa, naja.
Thank you very much, panelists. My names are James Mutinda. An organic farmer, a big beneficiary from the programs under KCOA and Kenya Organic Agriculture Network. My question is directed to Mr. James, my namesake, from Murang'a. I would want to know, considering that this agroecology policy will be adopted by most, if not all, the counties, what are the are there any plans to measure the success and the impact of the agroecology policy in terms of economic benefits for the farmers, and also for the environment and for the community well-being? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And we have some gaps. And what we are supposed to do, like we say, Mulanga is we are like the pilot. What we need to do, we need to do what you call a baseline survey, and we are appealing to the partners. Come and support us, we do the baseline survey, because if you want to move from here to maybe to Machakos, you have to start from somewhere. And so we have some tool for assessing agriculture, like the one from FAO called TAPE, that is tool for assessing performance evaluation. You have the one for Biovision Foundation called BIAT. So what you need to do? We need to do a baseline survey. Where are we today? And where are we going to be tomorrow? The way you say when you are doing conservation agriculture, it's take around 7 years to realize the benefit of carbon sequestration in the soil. So that's where to go. We have not done it. And I hope by next year, maybe we are going to say, Murang'a, you are here. And sometimes, as a farmer, as agricultural professional, what you do, we do what you call gross margin analysis or cash flows. We want to see this quick benefit. But remember, when you implement agroecology, there are some environmental benefit which you cannot measure with your naked eyes. And we need maybe to domesticate that type of BIACT to our East Africa or Kenyan situation, where we can say, after maybe 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, we move from point A to point B or to point C. Thank you.
Asante. This is the last question because we need to go to the official opening.
Yes, please. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. First of all, I want to appreciate the presenters, and Mary, you've done a good job. I also want to appreciate Mr. Mbalo. All of you have done a very, very good job. I want to appreciate Mr. Mbalo with a very special recognition of what the government is doing to be able to implement these FMSs into the structure, because we know that 10 years ago or before, we had deliberated, we had a very liberal way of doing things until we brought in these UPOV issues that were earlier mentioned. My question, without having to re-echo or to replay what has been presented, goes first of all to the group that farmers like Sylvia's Basket and the Ndeya people. I feel that they are doing a very, very good job in the area of the intervention. But I fear, even as we have said about the issues of PVP, that we are exposing them to biosecurity risks. That one, I know all of you understand what I'm talking about, because with this incoming of diplomatic, immunity, we see our seed systems being contaminated without us having to raise a voice. I want to know, what are we doing in terms of biosecurity and ensuring that people like Sylvia and our Ndeya people and others that are doing, I'm also in that our seeds are not contaminated without us having to raise a voice. That is a policy issue. Bwana Ombalo, I hope you'll be able to respond to that. My second question is regarding the certification itself, the PGS. And my proposal is that why can't we look at these PGS and also the ICS, the internal control systems, to be able to use them as a prerequisite to gaining an entry into the African Free Trade Common Area, so that our products can flow freely, within the African continent. That is also a policy one, and I think it must come out of this meeting as a recommendation that how do we penetrate the African Free Continental Trade Area, so that the products that are produced within the African context can flow freely throughout the continent. I think that will have widened the market scope, and especially people like Sylvia, who are struggling and penetrating countries through their own efforts, they will be buoyant enough to reach all the other African countries. That is a policy question. On institutional management, I want to applaud PELAM, really. Being also a mentor within the AWOLA program, I see an opportunity for us again to come out of this meeting with a recommendation that we should look at AWOLA and PELAM and the work that they are doing and create space and scope for them to raise the profile of these women that are going into the policy regime, to be able to train them in such a manner that it becomes an institution that has got tailored programs that are training women, because we know that even crop protection itself and plant protection and international standards for phytosanitary measures, it is very difficult for women to understand that. But we know that we can tailored programs that can empower these women, so that the products that they are producing, we have confidence that they are free of pests and diseases, they are healthy nutritionally, and also biodiversity, which we are talking about, is in there, because all these things are provided for in the various international agreements, as we have been told in the international treaty, particularly the Nagoya Protocol on access and benefit sharing. We know that we have prior informed consent in that Nagoya Protocol, but who is looking for that prior informed consent? I want you to respond to this threat that is impeding Kenya's farm managed seed systems, the work of farmers, and our own food security, and also to look into empowering PELAM, so that we create programs out there that are tailored to empowering women in these areas of phytosanitary. Thank you. I'm interrogating this because last week I was able to North Carolina State University in issues of threats and challenges in farm managed seed systems. And these questions came out, and I know that there are institutions out there which are ready to partner with us to be able to move into this direction that I've just presented. My name is Dr. Sarah Olembo. I'll be a panelist tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Asante sana. I think we could start with the policy questions.
Okay. I'll have a shot at maybe one or two of them, and maybe my colleagues may wish to add. I want to believe that when you are referring to biosecurity issues, you're essentially referring to the Cartagena Protocol, and you're also referring to our Biosafety Act, which is the instrument we have in the country to implement the Cartagena Protocol, of which as a country we are party to. And I want to state, because there is a government position on this, that the traditional approach that we have had, and I think that is what even made us not move with speed, was an exclusionist, is that the right word, approach. There were days when we wanted actually to champion aspects of agroecology, and the position of categories of actors, including civil society, was that it is either organic agriculture or no agriculture. And in our government, we think that is not a right approach. A right approach is one that opens up opportunities and for the actors within a specific area to make choices, including the consumer, to make choices. And at the end of the day, what is more sustainable, what speaks to the aspirations of the people, is what prevails. The marketplace is a place of choice. So with regard to the biosafety issues, I want to state like this, and I want to be honest, is that the need to have a legal instrument around biosafety is first to safeguard the country. If you don't have a law, then anything done is within the law. If you have a law that clearly states that you cannot be able to introduce ABCD, you cannot have contained experimentation or quarantine around such material, then anybody bringing that material in the country will not be breaking any law. So the Biosafety Act is meant to safeguard the interest of Kenyans, first and foremost, and it creates ways within which genetically modified material may be introduced, that you must meet the stringent conditions required for introduction, for contained experimentation, for release. And what is taking into account include environmental impact, these cross-contaminations that we are talking about, so that anybody trying to do those things must make sure that even injurious cross-pollination does not take place. So first and foremost, I would want to urge that we don't fault the law, because it is meant to safeguard. And I've said that if you don't have a law, it means anybody doing anything is within the law. So the law is meant to safeguard. Now, as to whether certain materials and the GMO should be introduced or not, it is the country, you have seen, has been treating this on a case-by-case basis. And there are materials that have not been disallowed because of ethical reasons and because of even lobbying and advocacy. So I want to state that the government position is that we must have a Biosafety Act, we must have a biosafety authority to safeguard the interest of the Kenyans. And when the government wants to give that option, we should not say it cannot be. We should make sure that it is within the law and it does not cause any undesired consequences on the crops that we have through isolation distances and so on. Now, very quickly on the matter of Nagoya Protocol. Again, Nagoya Protocol is a matter, the lead agency within the country is National Environmental Management Authority. That is the lead agency. But what we have done for the categories of crops that are important for food and agriculture, the FAO treaty, the International Treaty for Plant Genetic Resources, have created a multilateral platform to facilitate their exchange through that multilateral system, and that is how countries have benefited, including Kenya, from materials that are important for food security, which we need to exchange without the restrictions around, the bilateral restrictions around the Nagoya Protocol. So what we are doing, that regulation that I talked about is meant to facilitate this. And what we have done in those regulations is to have farmers' prior informed consent and even material transfer agreements between accessors of genetic material and those who want to use materials, specifically those who want to carry some of our important material out of the country. So there is going to be a framework that implements those aspects of the Nagoya Protocol that relate to food and agriculture, and that is the instrument we are developing. I agree with the other sentiments around deepening trade within the continental frameworks that we are developing, and I think you asked that the meeting can make a resolutions. Please go ahead and make those resolutions so that they can also be advocated for and lobbied with the various arms of government. Thank you.
Asante sana. Let's give a hand to Mary Rungu and her panel as they stand here just for a picture. Tafadhali, those behind the cameras, this is your moment just to archive this. Quite an engaging one, and yes, much as we have the time, also it was important to accommodate the questions that are coming from you. That is why you're in attendance, and that is what will bring forth the recommendations. The gentleman behind the camera, this is your moment, Tafadhali. You have to take this photo as we continue. I'd like to thank James Nyaga, beg your pardon, Agroecology Lead Officer, Climate Resilience Officer from Muranga, David Ombalo, Assistant Director, Agricultural Policy, State Department for Agriculture and for the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, Rosemary Ndunge, Livestock Policy Directorate, State Department for Livestock. That's actually one who was meant to be here but has been represented by someone else. Dr. Anthony Masharia, thank you for joining us here as a head of Agroforestry Department, State Department for Forestry, and Mary Rungu from Pelham for that very engaging session that you have taken us through. It was actually Dr. Hamisi Zila, Assistant Director, Livestock Policy Research and Regulation, State Department for Livestock, Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. Sorry, I was referring to the earlier version of the program. There was a change last minute today to give room for the representative there. So ladies and gentlemen, now, excuse me, we are getting to the moment of our launch of the first National Agroecology Symposium, the official launch. We have our guest of honor here, and to kickstart that session, we'd like to invite a key and strategic development partner, and that is represented by Dr. Sophia Baumert, the project manager for GIZ for Sustainable Agricultural Systems and Policies. Let's give her a hand as she comes to stage for quick remarks, and then I'll call on engineer.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part of the opening ceremony. The symposium already started quite well this morning with rich discussions. You see a different name in the program. This is my big boss. And once I open this paper, I become her, Petra Jacobi, Program Director of the Agriculture and World Development, GIZ, Kenya. Okay. Representation of the ministry, Mr. Kubok, engineer, development partners, research, academia, civil society organizations, private sector representation, organizers, Pelham, Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is as GIZ that I warmly welcome you to this first Agroecology Symposium themed Sustainable Futures, Advancing Agroecology for Climate Resilience and Food Sovereignty. The significant contributions, both positive and negative, from the agri-food systems continue to be recognized as we endeavor to end hunger and poverty in all forms. The inefficiencies in the production processes, supply chains, markets, and all the way to consumptions, as well as the impacts and immense pressure we exert on the environment, are a major concern. The call to action to achieve an acceptable balance not only aims at sustainable agriculture, but in a more holistic view at sustainable food systems. And agroecology is a powerful pathway towards this goal. Agroecology is an approach that offers multiple benefits. It promotes diverse production systems, increases the climate resilience of agriculture, diversifies the rural economy by adding value locally and supporting short value chains. GIZ worldwide and in Kenya is a strong supporter of agroecology, contributing to all three levels that agroecology embraces: science, a set of practices, and as a social movement. GIZ supports the generation of scientific evidence that is critical to agroecology to provide proof of the effectiveness and suitability of agroecological practices vis-à-vis conventional practices. All our interventions strongly focus on soil health and other foundational agroecological principles. And we understand agroecology as movement working together with diverse stakeholders in shaping collective visions and goals. GIZ, working together with the ISFA, the Intersectoral Forum on Agrobiodiversity and Agroecology, and led by Pelum Kenya, has been part of the stakeholders supporting the development of the draft National Agroecology Strategy for Food System Transformation. And our effort does not stop with the launch of the strategy in a couple of weeks. We are committed to continue our support throughout the implementation of the strategy and its 5 strategic pillars. Foster the transition to agroecological approaches, promote sustainable consumption and healthy diets, create an enabling environment incentives for agroecology scaling up, strengthening research, innovation, and training to foster co-creation and co-learning, and enhance social equity, inclusion, and participatory governance in food systems. We have all heard this already in discussion this morning. Let me end by saying the journey ahead requires the concerted effort of us all. It is a path that calls for collaboration between governments, international organizations, academic institutions, private sector entities, and most importantly, reaching to and involving our hardworking farmers in this transformation agenda. It is only together we can foster environments where agroecology practices are not only encouraged, but become the norm, where policies are not only formulated, but effectively implemented, and where agriculture innovations are not only developed, but widely adopted. Looking at the agenda and the carefully considered sessions that this symposium focuses on, I would urge us all, in the end, after the strategic engagement of brilliant minds today and tomorrow, to be enthusiastic, optimistic, and ready to actively and closely follow up on the actionable areas identified across the sessions. In this manner, we will consciously put ourselves in the path towards the desired outcome. And by closing this, I am now Sophia again. And because it has been mentioned 2 times today, that it's a special day, there are the elections going on in the United States, and so I'm following this emotionally, and I'm just seeing on LinkedIn one post of an American fellow who said, one thing is coming out crystal clear from the election, that if we want to have functional ecosystems, we have to do it ourselves, and we can't rely on the government and the policies. This is what he said for his American fellows. So I take it as caution or as emphasis that we should not we should stay firm with our ambitions to really drive the agroecological transformation here in Kenya. And that we are not getting undermined by anything, by tendencies, international tendencies. So maybe this is my emotional closing for this one. Thank you.
Asante sana to Dr. Sophia, aka Petra, for the day, and you've represented him well. Asante sana from the GIZ Strategic Development Partners. So now, without further ado, to a gentleman who's been sitting and listening keenly as he follows. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for engineer Bwana Laban Kiplagat, who is now going to be coming before our guest of honor, Asante sana. Please give him a hand, tafadhali. Bwana Kiplagat will then call on Bwana Leonard, who is speaking on behalf of our principal secretary today, who is also with us. Karibu.
Thank you very much, and our chief guest today, representatives of all invited organizations, farmers, ladies and gentlemen, with all protocols observed, good afternoon. Yes, I'm happy, and when Anne Minor was here, she asked the panelists, what is your last word? And of course, they said what they said. But I think she never asked, what is your first word? So I want to say that I'm a born-again agroecologist. And I'm happy today because some people were getting born in the discussion, panel discussion here. Others are getting converted inside there. But more so, I want to appreciate the very first convert, who happens to be our farmers. Because Sylvia said they were doing these things without knowing that they were doing what? Agroecology. So they were the converts of that time. And so we're getting in. I'm also very happy that even our researchers were also getting converted here. And so with all this conversion that we are witnessing, we are creating a community of like-minded people. And these like-minded people, when they move together, I don't know, beyond a movement, what does it become? Because I've heard that agroecology is a movement. It's going to be a force to reckon with. And when it becomes a force to reckon with, then I think we can bring change. And so I agree with the representative of GIZ, Madam Sophia, that is asked to do. And I'm sorry that I was late in the introduction in the morning. We had said that in this space where we are in, we want to know those who are real converts and those who are just escorting us. When you introduce yourself properly and tell us what thing you did in the last 1 month. But I believe those are some of the trademark that we'll be using moving forward to identify ourselves so that we become the people who walk the talk instead of only talking the talk. So I'm speaking like this because I'm from the Ministry of Agriculture, but more so I'm the ISFA Steering Committee Chairman. And ISFA Steering Committee, or ISFA, is Intersectoral Forum for Agrobiodiversity and Agroecology. And it is within the State Department for Agriculture where we have been more involved in promoting food security without looking at the consequences of what we are doing. But along the way, we've been having our CSOs and our farmers who have been raising concern that we need to do things rightfully, justly, and do things that protect nature. And so I think I have always said that from where I sit, and forgive me, guest of honor, if I do what you should have done, I've said that we want to ask for forgiveness from all civil society that we have been fighting with for a very long time. Now we have got more than a handshake when it comes to issues of working for the people and for nature. We have got a handshake, we have got a hip shake, we have got a leg shake, we have got a hug shake. And therefore this collaboration, I believe it is going to be very monumental, as it was demonstrated even by our resolve to develop the agroecology strategy, which the government never removed any penny, but the goodwill of all of us, because we want to see a future that is sustainable, a future that is going to be able to, will be taken account to, that we have done the right thing. So as ISFA, my pride is that when we came together and we looked at the like-minded people, we said, let us change the landscape. Let us change the conversation. And because everybody was doing each and everything the way they know, then the first thing that we said was that let us have a strategy, which should become our Bible, so that in the church called Pelham, Kenya, there are worshippers there and they follow the right Bible. In the church called Bipa, Kenya, they have got a Bible there called Agroecology Strategy, and they can use that, and among other CSOs, because we found out that people were doing but not knowing how to do. But now when we brought the strategy, then the strategy is actually going to catalyze us to make us move in the same direction. I've had the conversation and I've had the questions. But sometimes there was a question that was asked by somebody to one of the contestants in the last presidential election in Kenya. They asked, how much is enough? And they said, enough is enough. So I know that our policy or our strategy may not be what it should be. But for now, because there's a positiveness among the researchers, among the farmers, among the policymakers, let us move in that direction. We'll be revising our Bible. We'll be having revised standard version moving forward until we get the King James version in the long run. So I'm very proud myself that during my tenure as ISFA chair, that's what we brought about. And when we started the agroecology strategy development, then the conversation started, and it even spilled over into what we are calling farmer managed seeds, which Mr. Mbalo has ably demonstrated here. And so I want to assure all of us that through ISFA and partners, and of course here say the government, we are reviewing what is reviewable now so that we can move forward as we look for how to bring a total overhaul. I want to say that the future of agroecology is bright, and I'm happy that when we were discussing what agroecology is, I think there were quite a number of questions. But through forums and symposiums like this, and through our preachings, through our various organizations, we are going to drive the point home so that it becomes well understood that we are the people to do things that are pro-nature, that mimic nature, that support nature. And my last word is that as we move on like that, I think there was a misconception about what agroecology is. They thought it's a primitive way of practicing agriculture because of the way probably we present and we communicate. But we want to say that science has come to help us to improve what was not improved, and therefore when we have science and the indigenous knowledge and we blend it together, it should be what should take us home. So as we communicate these concepts, because I know we are talking about the future of our farmers, which are the youth, we need to communicate well so that that impression does not portray that it's a primitive way of doing agriculture. So allow me therefore to end my remarks there. And as I said, I'm very happy, I'm very grateful to be part of this discussion. And I think it's a new beginning. Even the theme of our symposium today is actually showing that it's a new beginning. I know there's a big conversation going on everywhere. And from my side as a chair of ISFA, we embrace the conversation. And through the Office of the PS, I have been tasked to ensure that we bring all the like-minded people together for the time being that we are ISFA, and we want to thank all those that have supported us so far, and we believe that moving forward, we should be able to even do greater things for the good of nature and for the good of our farmers. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite our chief guest, the Principal Secretary, State Department for Agriculture, and the breeder will tell us whether that shoe is fitting him or is not fitting him. And if it's not fitting him, he'll tell us what he can do to fit. But I appreciate that the Minister of Agriculture is well represented here, and so I believe we will help him to feel part of the gap of the shoe. So welcome, Bwana Principal Secretary.
Makofi tafadhali kwake Bwana Leonard Kubok.
Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Kiplagat, for wondering whether I'll fit into the shoes. I assure you I will. If you also support me, as you have said. I know you have been sitting for quite a while. For those who understand Swahili, I know kuna kitu inaendelea, mmonyoko wa tumbo. Mnaelewa mmonyoko? You have been sitting for long, so I don't want to exacerbate ama to make it worse. Stomach erosion, because you need to have a break and have a refill at the gas station for whatever will have been prepared for our lunch. So I will be very brief. I have a passion for agriculture. I have a passion for all aspects of agriculture, including agroecology. I remember very well, I stood before most of you during the agroecology conference at the Safari Park sometime this year or late last year. And I think we have made major strides in pushing the subject of agroecology. I remember also very well that I was in the very initial workshop that conceptualized agroecology strategy, somewhere in Westlands. All right? And it's good to see that that initiative has grown, and very soon we will be rolling out or launching that strategy. Now, my name is Leonard Kubok, as you have heard from my brother Mark Masai. Where are you? You don't look like the one I see on the TV.
Right here, sir.
It doesn't look real.
No, TV, don't believe everything you see on TV.
Subai Muroni.
Chamune.
Yeah, you disappeared from the original home in Mount Elgon. I'll look for you today. Behind the tent.
You may attend, sir.
Yeah, so thank you, Bwana MC. It's good to see very professional MCs attending these functions. That is how high the organizers have rated this symposium. I'm a deputy director in the State Department for Agriculture in the ministry, and I'm in the Crop Resource Management division, where matters crop development, establishment, promotion, regulation, name it, is domiciled. And let me assure you that agroecology has adequate space, both within our division and also within another division in research and innovation, where Madam Grace is actually the champion of agroecology, Grace Mugo. And we work together in synergy in promoting agroecology in our mandates, respective mandates. I want to appreciate the very illustrative and in-depth discussions that I found ongoing. And I was very impressed by the input from the various participants, both for the panel discussion I found ongoing and the one which started through Mary. Let me ask first for apologies because I came late. Today was a big day for me because I just came from opening another conference within the same venue for the Seed Traders Association of Kenya. And I requested that our engineer and the organizers pardon me so that I finish with the other one. Fortunately, the official opening sessions there were a bit earlier than yours. Apologies accepted. All of us know what's going on with food insecurity in this country. Let me start from a very global perspective first before we narrow down to the objectives of this first ever symposium in Kenya. all of us understand that it is a very real threat to us as a country, the region of Eastern Africa and the continent, and even beyond the continent. And compounded more so by climate crisis, the weather-based phenomenon that is tossing us around with the flash floods, droughts, and many other manifestations. To the extent that producing healthy food that is affordable, accessible at any time of need is still a mirage. And there are even far deeper and difficult to imagine consequences. It is not just food insecurity. There are portions of our community that are vulnerable, extremely vulnerable to food insecurity impacts. We are talking of even very innocent sections of our community, children under 5 years. If you are a consumer of evidence and data that is generated by research and surveys, it must have disheartened you to understand or to learn that certain portions of this country, especially to the north, there are close to 50 children in every 100 who is suffering from child food poverty. Close to 50%, 46% to be sure, in West Pokot, Turkana, and other counties in the north, 46%. As you sit there and try to figure out how to make agroecology work, remember, ultimately, you will assist us in reducing these numbers. Okay? And even beyond, within urban areas where we would expect food security to be better, there are problems. There are problems with access. There are problems with the unhealthy foods that we are consuming, not just for the lowly paid, but even within the middle and upper class, like you and me. We need to rethink food security and food insecurity. And whatever interventions or initiatives, including agroecology, that are able to be practiced, let us embrace them. I've been in service for close to 32 years. Of course, far much less than most of older people inside here, and far much more than the younger ones I see around. And I'm getting to the exit stage, and I've not finished one of my ambitions to feed Kenyans, just like all of you. Because that is the ambition of the community of practice in the field of agriculture. First, to feed our people. And it's a bit disappointing, I know, for even most of you, that we are not making concrete, fast enough progress to address this problem of food insecurity. What happened? Those are some of the things and questions and thoughts that must go through your mind as you sit here from today until tomorrow. Let us rethink, let us refocus, let us find a way of doing things, probably a newer way or an older way, but in a better way, so that we do away with matters food insecurity. I was surprised the other day, I was looking at some information from Canada. Canada, I think, is one of the almost top 4 food exporters, food and food products exporters. But do you know how many million Canadians are food insecure? 4 million. And yet Canada is among the top 5 exporters of food and food products. If Canada, being the 5th, one of the top 5 is exporting food, is having 4 million souls sleeping hungry, have we done enough in Kenya or within our own institutions 4 million. A report just released by FAO, World Food Program, last week, on Friday, I think, regarding our food status of hunger in the next 6 months to May, says Kenyans of about 1.6 million are food insecure as we speak. 1.6 million. This is just 300,000 above the normal figure we work with when we are discussing strategic food from 1.3. So as we think we are having bumper harvest for maize, in the course of this season there are problems. And there will be problems because projections for weather performance in the eastern Horn of Africa is dire. It's not good. So once again, let me, from a personal point of personal level, thank you so much, the organizers, Pelam, and your colleagues in the planning sessions, and other critical stakeholders I've seen, GIZ and many others I will not mention today, but I've seen from the catalog of program. Thank you so much. You are really going to make this symposium a success, which we already see from our attendance and the discussions. I've noted the focus areas. There are 5. Let us discuss them exhaustively and let us have a good outcome, a practical outcome that is can be implemented. I know you are discussing policy issues. You have gurus in the house on matters policy, practices in agroecology, finance and markets, a very critical component, a very topical issue, finance and markets. We cannot succeed without this critical focus area. Then scientific evidence. I know we have scientists here, researchers at the national institutions and international institutions. Let us discuss these matters. And definitely inclusivity. Very crucial. We should not leave anyone behind. People with disability, women, the youths. You might be the magic bullet that will address our major social problem in Kenya, Gen Z. You could assist the politicians in addressing matters Gen Z. Because if we go agroecology and other proper ways of doing agriculture, we'll absorb a large chunk of the youth bulge. And if we don't do it now, these young men I see seated here, most of whom we associate with them because they're addressing our major social ills in this country, may be a bigger problem. All right? So I will now read the formal speech by the PS, but kindly note those personal comments from my personal experience over more than 3 decades working in the sector. The ones you feel you are making you uncomfortable, kindly leave them here at this place. But if you feel you can have other discussions, I know we'll get forums to progress our discussions. Remember, agroecology is the only solution that will bring back our soils. There's no any other. Our soils are not as lively as they used to be. Life has gone down in the soils. We need to bring them back to life. Are we together? Now, this is remarks by the Principal Secretary, State Department for Agriculture, Dr. Kiprono Rono Paul, on the occasion of the official opening of the first National Agroecology Symposium here in Nairobi. The organizers of this first ever National Symposium are led by Pelam and your close partners. Representatives from the academia, national and international research centers, and from the development partner organizations. I know GIZ is here. Do we have others? Let me just note. Development partners. Okay. Members from the private sector. You are from the private sector. Let me just know. That means if you are not government, private sector. Kindly, don't shy. Or you're hungry, too hungry now not to raise your... Yeah, we just want to appreciate you when I mention you, kindly. I will not ask you to come here. Members from the government, national government, county governments, I know Muranga is here. Thank you so much. I saw very strong farmer voices, farmers and friends of agroecology. Thank you. You are the largest in number so far. Any other person I've not mentioned or group of people? Students. Ah, wonderful. Being led by the PhD student. You are somewhere. Asante sana. You are leading by example and also reading by example. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, and all other invited guests, I am very much honored to be here today at the first ever National Agroecology Symposium being held for the next 2 days. This symposium is happening at a critical time as Kenya grapples with severe weather phenomenon, such as droughts and floods, food shortages, and the ever increasing impacts of climate crisis. These challenges threaten food security and resilience in our country, therefore highlighting the urgent need for transformative agricultural practices, including agroecology. Some of you may know that according to the Economic Survey Review of 2022, of course it is not the latest, but this information here regards what we are doing here today. The growth rate in our agriculture sector slowed from 5.2% in 2020 to a mere 0.1% in 2021. This deceleration was largely attributed to climate change, soil degradation, reliance on external inputs, biodiversity loss, and the compounded effects of COVID-19 pandemic and the Russian, Ukraine, and other conflicts in other parts of the world. These events underscore the importance of a resilient localized food systems and further reinforce the relevance of agroecology and regenerative agriculture in general in building, transforming, and growing sustainable agriculture. I note that this symposium follows the African Fertilizer and Health Summit held last year in Nairobi, which emphasized the importance of soil health as a foundation for agricultural productivity across Africa, and of course in Kenya. It is therefore our responsibility to adopt approaches that enhance soil health, promote biodiversity, and prioritize sustainability over reliance on external inputs. This symposium serves as an invaluable platform for you key stakeholders, including government, private sector actors, farm organizations, researchers, academia, development partners, and donors to discuss and advance agroecological solutions. By promoting collaborative discussions on policy, governance, climate resilience, market development, and scientific research, we aim to build momentum towards a nationwide movement that promotes agroecology-based food systems from production to consumption. Transforming our food systems, ladies and gentlemen, is no longer optional. It is essential and a must. We must shift to models that are resilient to climate change, enhance food and nutrition security, and address social inequalities and poverty, all the while preserving our natural resources and cultural heritage for the current and future generations. Dear participants, I'm particularly pleased to note that this symposium aligns with the draft National Agroecology Strategy for Food Systems Transformation 2024-2033, which we all anticipate to launch later this month. This strategy represents a comprehensive vision for embedding agroecological principles in our national food systems and underscores our collective commitment to food and nutrition security in Kenya. This symposium also provides a unique opportunity for both the public and private sectors to showcase how agroecology can promote safe, equitable, resilient, and culturally diverse food systems. By examining various approaches to production, distribution, processing, and market development, we can demystify agroecology and highlight its potential as a transformative approach rather than a minimalist one. I would sincerely like to acknowledge the role of the Intersectoral Forum for Agrobiodiversity and Agroecology ISFA under our ministry, which brings together diverse stakeholders to integrate agroecology and agrobiodiversity into public policy. ISFA's work is well known as and is instrumental in advancing agroecology at both the county and national levels, ensuring that agroecological practices become part of Kenya's broader agricultural development strategy. Over the 2 days of the symposium, we as a ministry are eager to hear the progress and the insights from all of you, researchers, practitioners, and policymakers who are leading the efforts to advance agroecology in Kenya. Your knowledge and experience are invaluable in shaping a sustainable path forward. In the spirit of collaboration that this symposium champions and espouses, let us work together to address the emerging challenges in our cultural sector and co-create solutions that will advance Kenya's food systems towards resilience, sustainability, and inclusivity. The Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development is committed and truly committed to partnering with all stakeholders, including state and non-state actors, to implement the call to action that will emerge from this symposium. We believe that collective action is vital to achieving the ambitious goal set for agroecology in Kenya. Finally, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to PELAM Kenya Network, together with your co-partners, for organizing this landmark symposium. It is the first ever national symposium on agroecology. The other one where I came from, they're having their 12th annual Congress and Expo. For the last 12 years, every year, except during COVID. So I see and I seek to see this young baby called Agroecology Symposium moving towards that direction. And let me take it again. Finally, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to the PELAM Kenya Network and your committee and colleagues for organizing this landmark symposium, along with all the other supporting partners and the dedicated planning committee. My gratitude goes to everyone involved in matters agroecology, previously, today, and in future, including the ministry, personnel, other arms of the government, institutions and agencies, researchers, academia, NGOs, private sector actors, farmers, women, and the youth, whose collective presence here today underscores the broad commitment all of us have towards agroecology. I wish all of you a productive and insightful 2 days and look forward to receiving recommendations from this gathering as we work to enhance climate resilience and food sovereignty for all Kenyans. With these few remarks, I now hereby declare the first ever National Agroecology Symposium officially open. Thank you so much.
I think you can do better with the applause there for the official launch. Thanks to Bwana Leonard Kuboku, who's representing Daktari on this platform. It is Dr. Kiprono Rono, the Principal Secretary, State Department for Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. You'll stay with me on stage just for a bit, but you'll stand center stage as I'll ask that we have other people join us symbolically for this moment. And I'll call on our chairperson to join us. I'll call on engineer. I'll call as well on Rosina to join us. Just before you come with that, before you come with the goodies, just come on stage. The Board of Directors, please join us on stage as well. Board of Directors from Pelham Kenya, tafadhali join us on stage if you're here representing the board. please join us on stage. This is your moment. I'll ask that the GIZ representative, Dr. Sophia, also joins us on stage. Please, any other board of director that is not represented here besides Madam Janet, tafadhali, this is your moment. I want us all to have a moment to take a picture, and the Kayamba Roots band will join me on either side of the stage just to give some life to this moment of launch, and to also give an opportunity for the gentleman and the lady. I think it's only gentlemen behind the camera. Oh yes, there's a lady. Yeah, there you are. To capture this moment, just center stage. Songea hapo karibu. Songea hapo karibu. Any other board of director representative? All right, and now I also saw when Bona Leonard asked if there are other partners, development partners here. Tafadhali, please join us on stage. Please come, there's enough space for either side of those who are standing here. Please, I saw some hands being raised in terms of the development partners. Don't be shy, it's your moment to be part of this occasion, symbolically the official launch of the first National Agroecology Symposium. Asante, thank you kwa kukubali wito. Any other development partner to this, please join us. I don't want you to miss this. You've been very, very instrumental in helping us get to this point. Tafadhali, join us on stage. Any other development partner? Don't want to have anyone miss on this. Don't be shy. Kama unajua any development partner, njoo. Usiogope, usiogope. This is your moment. I like to give an opportunity. Yes, so there will be a bit of a pop, but don't be alarmed. We're in a very secure venue, but yes, asante. Thank you for coming. Don't be shy. And Bwana Majanga will join us here with a way of pop and color, and they'll also do a bit of kuchocha in music, and just so that we can all enjoy and join in the celebration of this. And all the other co-partners, yes, I believe your logos are also represented here. I also want you to be here on stage, please. All the co-partners, not just development partners, tafadhali join. I think that's why you were asking yourself whether you should join us. Asante. Yes, karibu, karibu. You know yourselves, tafadhali join us here on stage. We'd like to have you represented here for this particular photo. Alafu naona sasa wale warefu ni kama watasimama nyuma. Engineer, hapana, bado kuna nafasi upande huo. Yes, could probably go to that side of the stage because of this one. I don't want it to block you. Yeah, hata huyu engineer asiwe pekee. Kuna mtu pia hapa kwa I think 6 foot. Unaweza join upande ule. Yes, 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 yes. Vuta tu viti nyuma. Asante sana Majanga kwa kunisaidia hapo. Itabidi yenyewe wale warefu kidogo wasimame nyuma kidogo tu. I don't want to be blocked. Any other co-partner joining us? Yes. So ladies and gentlemen, something will be patched here on screen, and it's basically a countdown. And I'd like to ask that all of us as stakeholders as well, we join in the countdown from 5 all the way to 1. And at 1, of course, there will be a bit of a pop and just celebration. Don't be alarmed. And then we will have a bit of celebration with the Kayamba Roots band that will help us, and you can join with applause on that. Are we okay on the same page? Are we on the same page with the countdown? Mtanisaidia tafadhali? Is that a yes? Okay, don't worry. We're going for lunch right now. So, sir, if you could patch it up here. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, okay. Officially, I did warn you. Officially, the first National Agroecology Symposium has been activated and launched. And this is a big journey. It's a baby that will grow over the years thanks to core partners such as yourselves and development partners. Endelea kuimba kidogo watu kabla watoke wa dance kidogo bana Majanga. Changamsha watu kidogo. Changamsha watu kuja hapa katikati. Wachangamsha wa dance kidogo tu. Just for a few seconds. Bayaye pana wamberi bayaye wo. Hebu tusimame tafadhali. Tusimame. Pana wamberi. Mana wamberi ndeshe kwero. Mana wamberi bayaye. Mana wamberi bayaye wo. Mana wamberi ndeshe. Makofi kidogo ya juu. Mana wamberi. Mana wamberi ndeshe kwero. Mana wamberi. Mana wamberi ndeshe kwero. This is where he dance. Let's go. Mana wamberi ndeshe kwero. Haya mwana wamberi. Mwana wamberi ndeshe. Wapi vigelegele ya symposium? Come on, you can join in.
Mwana wa mberi neshekwero Gamwakula mwana wa mberi. Mwana wa mberi neshekwero Hambi mulole bakusundanga liseba. Hey, hambi mulole bakusundanga abantu bo. Hambi mulole abantu bo. Hambi mulole Siriria.
This staff of Penham joining in the dance.
Siriria. Siriria. Let's go. Siriria. 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 We sing along. Mwana mberi bayaye. Bayaye wo. Let's go. Mwana wa mberi bayaye. Bayaye wo. Echa maguta gamwakula mwana wa mberi. Mwana wa mberi neshekwero. Mwana wa mberi. Mwana wa mberi neshekwero. Wapi mabega 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 mabega. Oh mwana wa mberi neshekwero. Bayaye. Ahe oh mwana wa mberi neshekwero.
Piga makofi ya juu, makofi ya juu.
Oh mwana wa mberi.
Wapi vigelegele?
Neshekwero. Oh mwana wa mberi. Oh mwana wa mberi neshekwero. Ntenya kutinyula musala kweli pada panti. Musala kweli pada panti. Hey na masanda. Hey na makanda. Musala kweli pada panti. Mwana wa mberi bayaje. Mwana wa mberi neshekwero.
Weka mabega.
Mwana wa mberi. Mwana wa mberi neshekwero. Bamakula mwana wa mberi symposium wo. Mwana wa mberi ni pelam. Ni pelam wo.
How low can you go? How low can you go? Let me see.
Golengi. Hey, let's go down. Chini kwa chini. Teremuga. 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 Chigi. Saniginga. Umwene manyi. Umwene wanyi tuli. Makofi. Makofi. Ya juu. Mwana wa wapi vigelegele ya pela.
Hapo sawa.
Mwana wa mberi.
Asante.
Mwana wa mberi neshekwero.
Asante sana. Thank you for making sure kuna nafasi ya lunch hapo.
Thank you.
Kayamba route. Now just ask that we have our chief guest, our chairperson, our country coordinator, as well as our GIZ representative and engineer to stay on stage, and everyone else will get back to their seats. We'll be joining you there because I've been told there's a need for group photos. So how we will try to achieve this is everyone will be seated, and someone can help with getting the gifts. We'll have everyone seated and the camera person will take a photo from here just to be able to capture everyone, because it's hard to have everyone on stage as we break for lunch. So to Rosina, I would invite you to give the first gift of appreciation, just a token of appreciation, to Dr. Sophia from GIZ. And then you'll also gift Engineer Laban Kiplagat as well, just to say thank you. And as well as Bwana Leonard Kubok. I don't know if he will keep it or if he will give it to Daktari, because you'll declare. Okay. You can join with a round of applause. It's first to Dr. Sophia. You want to talk?
Yeah. So on behalf of Pelham and the organizers for this event, we really appreciate for you taking time and also for the support that you have shown upon this first agroecology symposium. And we have a very small gift for each one of the keynote or the official opening address, and we hope you will appreciate them. So thank you so much. May God bless you. I'll request our board director, Olivia. Olivia is the board director of Pelham. We have other board directors. We have also men in the board. Don't worry. So I request Olivia to present the gift to Sophia.
Thank you for this opportunity. And Dr. Sophia, we appreciate your insights in our first agroecology symposium. And I think I remain with your word that we are responsible to create this change. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Makofi, don't be envious. It's just representation. Gift here inakuja through lunch in the next few. Hey, Dr. Sophia, what has happened there, Dr. Sophia?
So this is my colleague.
Oh.
I'll also request Olivia to present to Engineer Laban Kiplagat. Engineer has been very pivotal in supporting and facilitating the work of agroecology as the chair of ISFA, and we don't take your support for granted. Anytime we call him, anytime we are bothering him, but he has been really supportive. So thank you so much.
Thank you again, Rosina. I have this opportunity. Engineer, we are so grateful for your insights. We know that you are a born-again agroecologist.
I'm a bishop now. I should be a bishop of agroecology.
And a bishop of agroecology. And we are looking forward to the revised King James Version of agroecology strategy. Thank you.
Makofi tafadhali.
Yeah, thank you very much once again. And this token of appreciation goes to Leonard La. I want to pronounce your name. Kubok. Yes, Leonard Kubok, my newly found friend, and also our chief guest for this occasion. I know you confess that you came late. That is not real. African leaders are never late. They only delayed. I know somebody laid you somewhere. So just feel at ease and comfortable. So this is our token of appreciation from the team, and we hope by this time we'll continue thinking about Pelan Kenya. Thank you.
Asante.
Thank you. I just have one last word. We were sharing and I was asking her where she comes from. She said Kitui. When were you last in Kitui? For sure I was in Kitui last in 1994. The reason why I've never been to Kitui, there's a mountain there called Zambani. I was told if I play around there, I'll change my gender. That's why I never went.
That is a bit scaring, but karibu sana. Kuja. We are not going to take you to Zambani. Karibu.
Asante. Na Bwana Leonard Kubok, gift ifikie Dr. Rono tafadhali. We will follow up. Unaweza piga picha nayo. Asante sana. So everyone will now sit because we did take a photo with everyone. That's why I called on the board of directors, all our strategic development partners and core partners. We had a photo there with the launch moment, and now there's a group photo with everyone. So how we are going to make this possible is everyone will be seated, and we will say one word and maybe raise our hands. Where's the gentleman with the camera? Joe, wewe ndo boss hapa. Wewe ndo utaniambia what can be captured in terms of the panoramic view, if this is possible. We want to try and have everyone in the photo. So utatuambia tu hata labda utasimama kwa kona pale as you say something like the first national act. That's a bit of a mouthful. Anyway, you say, I was about to say, no, let me not say what you, let's just say, congratulations, okay? Ama sacha tuseme hongera. Hongera. Unaweza wave to the camera person over there. Ukisema hongera for the official launch of the first National Agroecology Symposium. That is hongera to yourselves as well. Hongera to the team that organized this on this first day, and the beginning of a journey that will be very fruitful for this whole body and sector, for all our stakeholders. So now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for lunch. And I'd like to give some quick announcements. When we come back, we will have the session that was meant to be right before lunch. That is 2 keynote speeches and a panel discussion here at the auditorium for everyone. Then we will have a breakout session for 4 parallel sessions, and I'll be giving the indications of where to go after we come back from lunch. But for those who are facilitating the parallel sessions in the afternoon, please see Monica and Sarah at the registration. She's raising their hand. They're both raising their hand. Please do, so that they can see. Raise your hand. Don't be shy. They need to come and see you. So everyone who is facilitating the parallel sessions in the afternoon, please see the ladies at the back, so that they can make sure that your presentations are aligned and ready for the afternoon session. So we're going to have lunch at the Rupee restaurant next to the swimming pool. You're asking where the swimming pool is? Don't you worry. You'll find out the exact detail and direction from those who are giving us meal cards. And that is either at this exit, there's a lady waiting on you to hand you over a meal card, which is your ticket for lunch, or outside that door, outside the registration area, so you can have your meal card, and they will give you the directions to lunch area. We have 1 hour for lunch, ladies and gentlemen, so it's now 2:33. I'll be a bit lenient, say 3:35. Let's be back here so that we can be able to squeeze everything and make sure we have ample time for the afternoon session, which I believe will be able to be finished and done with by 5:30. Also within lunch, I don't know.
Join us for the first National Agroecology Symposium in Kenya, where innovation meets tradition. On November 6th and 7th, 2024, at the Kenya School of Monetary Studies, we'll explore our theme, Sustainable Future, Advancing Agroecology for Food Sovereignty and Climate Resilience. Our focus areas are policy and governance, agroecological practices for food security and climate resilience, finance and markets for agroecology transition, scientific evidence and innovation of agroecology, and women, youth, and PWDs in agroecology. Connect with leading experts, farmers, and advocates as we discuss practical solutions to ensure food sovereignty and tackle climate challenges. Whether you're a farmer, policymaker, or an advocate for sustainable practices, this is your chance to be part of a transformative movement.
The mission is Pelam Kenya. We promote agroecological principles and practices among smallholder farmers and pastoral communities in Kenya. And these are the most vulnerable communities when we talk about the climate change, when we talk about food systems that are at crossroads, and when we talk about many vulnerabilities, including policy changes that affect the smallholder farmers. And as a network, we are the forefront, supporting the farmers in all the ways that we can. And of course, the food and agriculture must too change as the climate change is changing, and I see the great role of agroecology as a broad climate solution. So it's my hope that we shall be able to share our innovative ideas. We shall be able to freely network and be part of this solution of the climate crisis through agroecology, because at the end of the day, in as much as agriculture, they have been contributing to climate change, we have to eat, and we have to do this in a sustainable manner.
Don't miss out. Register today and help shape a sustainable future for Kenya. Together, we can cultivate change.